YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today, guys, we just finished our stream with the Melodious, and it was such a melody.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It was a stupid pun. Anyways, it was really good. The board is, it's okay, I would say. The ability to bounce cards from the field to your opponent's hand is amazing, and graveyard interruption is pretty good. And most of their cards are soft once per turn, so you can just spam them on the board and use their effects to their utmost usefulness. And the newer cards are hard once per turn. So we'll talk about the newer cards first, and let's move on with the replays, the showcase, and the engines that you can use with this deck. So first and foremost, we have here our first new card, which is Flowering Etoile, the Melodious Magnificat. Quick effect, you can banish until the end phase any number of Melodious monsters you control. Then you can return up to many face-up cards your opponent controls to the hand. If this face-up fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can spell summon one Melodious monster from your deck or extra deck, except Etoile, and spell summon it. Okay, so that's pretty good for an effect. So next up, we'll have Baka, the Melodious Maestra. So two Melodious monsters, while you control this fusion summon card, the activated effects of Melodious fusion monsters cannot be negated. So that's a pretty good effect. If this card is special summon, you can spell summon one Melodious monster from your deck, which is a pretty good card for an extension, or to extend your combos. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one Melodious monster in your graveyard, except the Baka, spell summon it in defense positions. And next up, we have the new Pendulum monster, which is the Couplet, the Melodious Songstress. You cannot Pendulum summon monsters except light monsters. This effect cannot be negated. If you do not control any face-up monster other than a Melodious monster, you can add one Melodious spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. For the monster effect, if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, you can reveal this card and spell summon one level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your graveyard or your hand. If a Melodious fusion monster is spell summoned to your field while this card is face up in the extra deck, you can place this card in your Pendulum Zone. This works well as well with the other new card, which is the Refrain. Our fourth one is Refrain, the Melodious Songstress. So, Pendulum effect, you can target one Melodious fusion monster you control, send a Melodious monster from your deck to the graveyard, and that targeted monster gains the attack equal to the monster's level times 200. So that's pretty good until the end phase. Monster effect, if this card is normal or spell summon, you can add one Melodious monster from your deck to your hand. So these two cards are basically your scales, just to summon some light monsters into the field. The best part about this is this pairs well with Voiceless Voice because they are level 7. Let's move on to our last one, which is the Concerto. So the Concerto is a normal spell card. Fusion summon one fairy monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, field, and or Pendulum Zones. If a Melodious fusion monster is sent to the graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, even during damage step, you can place this card on the bottom of your deck and then draw one card. So a pretty good +1 if ever that would be the case. So let's talk about the Master Duel deck list that we're going to use them, and lastly, the replays that we're going to talk about. Okay, so let's go over to YugiOh Vega for the core list. So first one we'll talk about is the engine. Now the engine can be placed with 8 to 9 cards. 8 to 9 because the copies of Couplet can be managed with 1 or 2. If ever the second one will be in your deck, you can search that one out with a copy of Refrain. Refrain needs to be on 3 copies because this is your searcher for your Couplet. The Concerto can easily be accessed by the copy of Couplet, so just having this on 1 copy is pretty needed. And then lastly, your Ostinato is one of your core cards for the engine, just to bring out a copy of your fusion monster to the field, which is primarily your Baka, the 1 copy of Baka, and then the 1 copy of Scoberta. We'll talk about the Scoberta in a wee bit. The Baka, once summoned to the field, you can gain access to a copy of a Refrain. And then the Refrain can access to 1 Melodious card from your deck to your hand. So Refrain into a copy of Couplet. And then so on and so forth. That is your Pendulum Scale with a copy of either your Scoberta on the field. So that is your engine. Let's move towards our Master Duel deck list. Okay, so for our Master Duel deck list, we have here our list. So the best thing about Melodious or the new Melodious cards is that you can run a ton of hand traps or a ton of board breakers depending on your build. So far, 1 card starters like First Movement Solo, Ostinato, your typical Refrain are basically on 3 copies, so that's pretty good. In Master Duel, we only have like 1 UR so far, which is the Bloom, and a copy of Ostinato. The other cards are SR and lower, so it's manageable. You can just scrap them. My main issue here is if ever the newer cards are going to be on UR, other than the new showcased one, which is the Atoll. So it's going to be an expensive deck, but like I said, it has a ton of room for hand chops, which is pretty good against the meta nowadays. This on the field, the Aria, which is a pretty good protection. So while this special summon card is on the field, melodious monsters you control cannot be targeted by card effects and cannot be destroyed by battle. And secondary, a copy of Elegy will be special summon melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. If this card was special summoned, fairy type monsters you control gain 300 attack. So another boost, if ever. And lastly, the copy of Sonata as an additional card. This is not a hard once per turn or a soft once per turn. If you have 3 copies of this on your hand and you have a melodious monster on the field, you can just special summon the 3 copies on the field. Also, while this special summon card is on the field, all fairy type monsters you control gain 500 attack. So another boost to the attack and defense. Ash Blossoms Maxi is a copy of Herald because we're only limited to 1 in Master Duel. Drone Lockbird, Effect Veilers, Imperms, Gold Buys, Cross Out. You can run Super Polys, you can run board breakers like Droplet, Lightning Storms, things like that. 3 copies of Movement. You control no monsters. Spell summon one level 4 or lower melodious monster from your hand or deck. Ostinato, Fusion Summon from your deck. Really good as a 1-card starter. And that's basically it. The most significant ones. Another thing that we need to talk about, or just a minor talk, is a copy of Sofina. So once per turn, you can target 1 light fairy monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So this works the same way with Soprano. The reason why, or there's some cases where you can use the Sofina, is because this is also a Melodious Maestra. So you don't need to fusion summon a Melodious fusion monster in the field just to gain access to a copy of the Flowering Atoll. You can just sacrifice this one instead. But most cases, you can just work your way with just 2 copies of Soprano just for the fusion summon, and you can just use that monster for a Flowering Atoll. Either way, it's still pretty much the same. If you want to use this one here, the Sofina, you can remove 1 copy of this and add the last copy with the Sofina. That's it. Either way, it works the same. Our extra deck revolves around 2 copies of Atoll, 3 copies of Baka, 2 copies of Scobetta. Scobetta is what I'm mentioning about earlier regarding graveyard interruptions. During either player's turn, you can target up to 3 cards in your graveyard, banish them, and if you do, this card gains 200 attack for each. So if you're up against graveyard dependent decks like Snake Eyes, Fire Kings, we're also running the Bloom Diva. This cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. Also, you take no battle damage from attacking involving this card. If this card battles special summon monsters after damage calculation, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between the original attack of that monster and this card. So that's still pretty good though. Maybe against Tenpai that might be pretty good. Baguska, 1 copy of Underworld because we spam a lot of monsters to the board. A copy of Lina, a copy of SP Little Knight, 2 copies of Bloom Harmonist. Now this card, once link summon, you can discard 1 card, spell summon 2 melodious monsters with different levels from your deck to your zones that this card points to. So typical targets for this, like I said earlier, is a copy of Aria and a copy of Elegy. If a melodious monster this card points to attacks, your opponent cannot activate card effects until the end of the damage step. So that's pretty good. And 1 copy of IP Masquerena. The only lock you're going to worry about with this Melodious deck is the copy of First Movement Solo, which you cannot spell summon monsters during the turn you activated this card except Melodious, and the copy of Bloom Harmonist. Now these are the only locks that you'll be locked into Melodious only. I think there's still 1 more that locks you into Light Monster effects only. I forgot what that is, or what that card is. Can't really remember, but tell me in the comment section below. I'm pretty sure it's one of the Melodious monsters, but so far those are the only locks that you have to worry about. But anyways, that is our Master Duel deck list. Let's move on to the replays. So we are here with the combos or replays, what do you want to call it. Nevertheless, now these 2 combos are from a guy named Duel Perfect. I'm gonna put his channel right up here, just so that everybody can see. But anyways, it's very standard. It's just basically a 1-card starter from the Ostinato and a 1-card starter from the movement solo. So let's start off first with Ostinato, fusion summoning into a copy of Baka, dumping a copy of our very own Refrain and a copy of Soprano to the graveyard. Once Baka is fusion summoned, you can spell summon a copy of one monster. So we'll go spell summon into a copy of Shofina. Shofina on the field will you can gain access to one monster from the graveyard. So we use the effect of Shofina, gain access to our Refrain, and then we normal summon our Refrain here, gaining access to our Colette. Colette will reveal itself, spell summon another body from the graveyard or to the hand. For this, we go for the Soprano, use the effect of the Colette, gaining access to the Concerto. Concerto will use the effect, fuse up into a copy of our very own Etoile by removing the two Pendulum Monsters and the one copy of the Melodious Maestra. So with that, the two Pendulums will be on the Pendulum scales since we have a face-up fusion monster that is on the field. So there we go. So we put them in the Pendulum scales, and now we'll use the effect of Refrain, target our very own Etoile, dumping a copy of our Sonata to the graveyard. So with this, we use the effect of our Soprano, fuse up again into a copy of our very own Schuberta. Now with that, the two cards will trigger a copy of Baka and a copy of our Concerto that was activated once a Melodious monster is sent to the graveyard. So trigger those two. Baka again gain access to one monster from the graveyard, and Concerto draws one card. So Sofina gains us one more card, which is the this card right here, and we spell summon it to the field. We have two more bodies that you can go into a link monster, which is the Bloom Harmonist. With that, we dump one card or discard one card and summon two Melodious monsters from our deck with different levels. So we summon a copy of our Elegy, and with our Arya. With that, we have also Graveyard Interruptions, removing 3 cards in the graveyard, which if ever we're going up against Snake Eyes, Fire Kings, Yubel, anything that revolves around the graveyard, we can just banish those cards. And then lastly, we have a copy of Flowering Etoile, bounce a number of cards from your opponent's field back to your hand. Plus, you still have the 4 cards that you haven't used at the start of your combo. So that is our combo number 1. Let's move on with combo number 2. Okay, so for combo number 2, it's just one card. We don't have any other cards. So first movement solo is a 1-card starter as well. We have almost the same cards on the field. But yeah, let's start off this one. First movement solo. If you don't control any cards, you spell summon a copy of Refrain. Refrain gain access to the Couplet. Couplet, we don't have any other cards, so we just have to put it in the Pendulum scale and then use the effect, get a copy of our Concerto. Concerto will be used at this point. And then go into a copy of Baka. Baka spell summon a monster, and the Pendulum cards will be placed in the Pendulum scale. Now we use the effect of Refrain, target one of our monsters, dumping a copy of our any monsters, but we go for Arya here. Use the effect of our Sofina, adding it back to our hand. And now we can go into our Link monster. Link monster, discard one card to spell summon 2 Melodious monsters from our deck. And with the effect of the Baka, we can summon a copy of Sofina, and with the Concerto, we draw 1 card from it. So there we go. Spell summon the copy of our Soprano and a 1 copy of Couplet. At this point, you can use the effect of our Sofina here. Add it back. Oh yeah, we forgot the effect. So once Soprano is spell summoned, it's an automatic trigger that we can gain access to 1 monster from our graveyard. So we can gain a copy of Arya here, and then we fuse into a copy of this monster here, which is the Schuberta. And with the effect of Shofina, we still have 1 card that we can add back to our hand, which is a copy of Arya here. So there we go. And with this, at this point on, we can Pendulum summon. So with the 2 monsters and the 1 monster face up in the extra deck, we can Pendulum summon. There we go. And with that, we can fuse once more with the effect of Soprano, because it's not a hard once per turn, into lastly a copy of our Etoile. So that's it. That is basically our board. Anyways, what are your thoughts on the new Melodious cards? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully we'll have our stream by Friday, because I will be working on Thursday. Anyways, that's it for today. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.